I want to talk to you about how important a feedback model is when you're building and maintaining a high performing team. Now, all a feedback model is a process where you can speak to your players and your players can speak to you and explain any issues they may have had while eliminating the personal emotions involved in it. So I like to follow what I call the beef feedback model, and this is out there on the internet, and many people use this. I think it's very productive to use the beef model because what it does is it explains the B is behavior, E is an example, the second E in beef is the effect, and then the third letter, the F, is what's going to happen in the future. So just quickly, I could explain it this way. Say Joe Worker, one of your better employees, has been coming into work a little late. The way the beef model, feedback model would work is you would approach him and say, Joe, how you doing this morning? I need to talk to you about your time and attendance. Can we sit down and discuss this? So now you've set it up where you want to talk to them about their behavior. So now Joe understands that you want to talk to him about his time and attendance. The second thing you might want to do is use the E, for example. So once you sit down with Joe, you're going to explain and give him an example. Today you were 20 minutes late, Joe. On Monday you were 10 minutes late. And on Friday you were 7 minutes late. This is a problem. It goes against our policy, and I want to discuss this in more detail with you. So now what you've done is you've given him the behavior, it's time and attendance, and now you're talking about the examples of what the issues were. The third, you want to point out the effect that's having on the team. So it might sound something like this. Joe, when you come in late, the rest of the team has to cover your shift, cover your phone calls that you're receiving, or covering the process that you have to do, and ultimately it's hurting their performance because they're covering for you. Now I know as a team member you don't want to hurt their performance, so I wanted to point this out to you that you becoming late or coming in late is affecting the team's overall performance. So what you've done there is you've given them the behavior, time and attendance. You've given them an example. He's been late 20 minutes, 10 minutes, 7 minutes. And now you're telling them what the effect is. It's affecting the rest of the team and how they have to cover for him. So then the last function of this model, the F, is for future. So you might want to talk to Joe and find out how we can stop this from happening and work towards a better future with this. So you might ask Joe, is there something going on that I need to know about that's stopping you from getting here on time? Joe might respond that they changed the bus schedule and he can't get here on time. Now you could work with Joe on that and say, okay, maybe we can shift the schedule so you can be here on time. Or if Joe just says, hey, you know what, I just dread coming in every day, it's taking me longer and longer, then that sets you down a different path. But you need to know what you can do so in the future it doesn't happen again. So in the scenario where they change the bus schedule, maybe Joe needs to be scheduled a little bit later so he can get in on time, and you can rearrange it so the team's not covering for him. This beef feedback model is so important for your team because what it does is, one, they know that you're disciplining the action. You're disciplining the performance, not them personally. You're not taking a personal attack on Joe. You're telling him what the problem is and how it's affecting the team. So there's no emotion tied to that. And Joe might be able to even explain to you what he thinks will help in the future to rectify this issue. But as long as you start using the beef model and team, you're going to have to work through. This is going to be very new to a lot of people, actually speaking up. Typically what happens when you don't have a feedback loop or a feedback model is it creates drama within the workforce. The other associates on the team start saying, Joe's always late and we're covering for him, and they start resenting Joe. If you address the issues immediately, really focus on the model, the feedback model, you get it out in the open, you address it and take care of it. I can tell you, problems are not like fine wine. They're not going to get better with time. You need to address a problem right away. I find this is the best way to address an issue, get it out in the open, find out what the problem is, get to the root cause, and then fix it. It stops having workplace drama. It stops having bad feelings between people. You just address it. It's nothing emotional, nothing personal. It's just something that has to be done. I think you'll find when you start doing this, and and you're going to have to be upfront with your team and say, this is the feedback model I'd like. And you want them to you want to use it with them, but you want them to use it with you as well. So you'll need to be receptive to it when they come to you and say, hey, coach, I had a problem yesterday with your presentation. And they go through the beef model and tell you what happens. Their example might have been, you called me out during the presentation. The effect was I felt terrible, and I think I lost some respect from my peers. In the future, when you do a presentation like that, could you use a fictitious player instead of calling me out on that? You've got to be receptive to that. You've got to be able to say, yes, you're absolutely right. I can see where that would have offended you and it won't ever happen again. You might even want to, in your next presentation, apologize for that. But this feedback model will only work if it's given out and received, both in the manner of which it is supposed to be. So why don't you go out, try this beef: behavior, example, effect, and future feedback model with your team. This isn't going to happen overnight. You're going to need to introduce it at your huddle, explain that you're going to put this out there. You want to use this. You want to have a nice feedback between the team and yourself. If you do this properly, once the team gets clicking along, they're going to feel very comfortable coming to you with the issues because they know you're going to address the issue and not take it personally. And in turn, you're going to be able to come to them, talk about issues through this feedback model, and it's not going to be personal, and you can correct the issue. So important for high-performing teams to have a functioning feedback model. Go on out, coach them up, make it a great day.